Hi and welcome back to the Bluebird Project Workshop. I'm Bill Smith, welder, fabricator, diver, fixer of Bluebird, fat bald middle-aged dad, and this is number 2. In this video I'm going to show you the detail fixes that went into the A-pillar, the little stuff. Hopefully there's a few tips and tricks there that you can put to use if you're working on a car. Hopefully you'll just find it curious and interesting as to what we did. But what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to show you on this stuff that really made me raise my eyebrows. Now, I've been in love with these cars for 40 years, and in my mind they can do no wrong. You know, engineering perfection. But when I've got amongst it, I've scratched under the surface further than I've ever got. There's some things in here that'll make you raise your eyebrows. So let's get through the nuts and bolts, and then I'll take you on a walk around of this and see what I mean. Now, the first job was to get rid of the rivet holes. I backed all the rivet holes with copper and welded them up with tape. It keeps it smaller weld. You can't do them, make it no problem. I did a few like that. But what you have to do is keep the shape. Don't let the shape run away with you. Welding up rivet holes in damaged material, it can be your friend. Because if you've got a panel with a bit of stretch in it, and you weld a group of rivet holes, it will tighten the panel. If you've got a piece of the panel that's happy and you weld it, it will shrink it, but you can easily stretch it with a hammer. So by judicious hammering and welding, you can do a lot of good getting rid of rivet holes. I basically backed all of these, welded them up, dressed them off, and that's them gone. It's now one piece of material. Now, over the years, many little bits were added to the car. There was extra bits here and there, and there's a couple of riv nuts in the pillar, and they have to go, and they've corroded quite badly. So what I decided to do was to dress the outside of them off down flush with the panel, and once that was done, turn it over, and they'll just pop out quite readily. And one thing I did discover is that they were into fairly ragged holes, so whoever did them, they're obviously, I was going to say aftermarket, but they're obviously being done as a later modification. So I decided the best way to fix the holes, because they're a ½ inch diameter, was to cut some really small patches. Now, on Bluebird we did a lot of really small patches. It was all aluminium. And we did little tiny 10mm diameter patches, but I hadn't tried them on a bit of steel like this. I know it works, but I hadn't tried it on a piece of thin steel with tiny patches. So I cut some teeny tiny patches, dropped them in the holes, and welded them up, and it actually worked really well. I was very happy with the result there. And there you see, there you are, dressed, gone, sorted. Hasn't pulled, hasn't moved. There was 2 inserts on the back of the panel at the top of the A-pillar, and I didn't know what they did. So I went and had a look at the other car, number 139, and it transpires that all they do is fasten on a piece of plastic bodywork, which is good because they don't have to be precisely positioned. Nothing is on this car anyway. So I was able to just release the one from the piece I'd cut out, mark off the hole, and stick the thing back in. Not a drama, but it's there. But ironically, when the part of the A-pillar that got smashed and patched and patched and smashed again was repaired, they've cut away the piece of plastic bodywork that those bolts hold on. So it's not there. So there's nothing to actually use the bolts for. Might put it back, might not. It's not doing a lot. I might secure what remains of the plastic with some nice countersunk rivets. We'll see. In the top of the pillar, there's a riv nut. But what had happened was I dropped a bolt in there a while ago. I wound the bolt in, and the thing just fell inside. So the bolt has been stuck on the remnants of the riv nut for a while. It was a case of get that out, get the remnants off, put a new riv nut in. That's a riv nut gun, made by Evdel. And in case you're not familiar with riv nuts, that's a riv nut. And it is a threaded thing, so you can put a bolt in it. And it has a serrated region which grips, so when you tighten the bolt that won't spin, but also it's deformable. So what happens, you put it in the hole, you pull the trigger on the machine, and it does that to it, and it gathers up much like a rivet, the deformable section with the ribs on, and it locks it solidly into the hole so you can then put a bolt in. So let's see if it works first time out, because that never happens. Okie dokie, I probably shrunk the hole a bit too far. Is that going to go in there? That's a good fit if it does. There we go, we're in. Ready? Look at that. That means you can now put an M10 bolt in there, and what I should have done was had one to hand, but I haven't, but it'll go, trust me. Now the area that was all patched and patched and patched with big thick slabs of steel is where an insert is attached to the pillar, which picks up on one of 3 points on a space frame that then picks up on the frame that supports the front shock absorbers, which is bolted to the front chassis. But that insert is into 1.1mm steel, and as you saw, it tore out and tore out and tore out. So I took the original insert and cleaned it up, put it on the lathe, skimmed it, got it clean. And then it transpired that by putting it back, it pretty much informed the repair that went with it. And it pulled a lot of stuff into shape that I was then able just to stitch up. But I haven't finished that. It's a part that requires a lot of strength, I think, and yet it doesn't have any. So I've put it back, but it's only stitched. It's not finished, it's not fully welded. It might have to be moved yet, but it's back in position and it's good to go. Maybe need a tweak, but it's back. The last biggish job on the panel was to put a patch in where I cut the piece out next to the door hinge that had been smashed in, probably by a suspension leg or something like that. So I cut the side out, sorted out the hinge plate, and that needed a small patch letting in. But before I could do that, the bottom edge of that still bore evidence of when it was smashed in. So I had to come up with a little bit of a fix to sort that. I didn't have to, but it's a little detail, and little details, to me at least, are very important. So it was a case of stand that up, make up a tool, stand that up, and then weld the patch in, dress it, job done. It's really hard to visualize this, but what should happen is it should be that shape. When you get to here, it's actually like that. That lip is bent in pretty badly. It should be there. It's actually at that. A little bit of grinding there, a little bit of shaping. That fits in there quite nicely, just at the back of the damaged section. So far so good. Right, we'll give it a go. I've been getting a little bit into trouble for being such a detail fanatic. Why don't you make a new bit? Why don't you cut it out and throw it away? And it's very simple, because you do that and you've lost another piece of original. Why would you do that? I mean, yes, if I was doing this for a customer who had a tight budget and had a deadline and needed it out next week and just wanted it functional, and yeah, okay, you'd throw it away. But I'm not doing it for a customer with a budget and a deadline. I'm doing it for me. Well, for me and you, because I was just going to do it for me. And then I got wrong for that. And I was told everybody will want to see this. So you're going to have to put up with me being a detail fanatic. I've never been any different. We'll have a look through the Bluebird stuff and we'll see how fanatical we got about getting that right. That's worked first time, ha. That's the patch set up in the hole. Oh, it still looks like a sad little creature, doesn't it? That's it all set up on the hole. Couple of magnets to keep it in position. The tag on the top is just for positioning. That'll be removed later. And it's time to stick some hot metal glue on that. So I'll crack on with that now. Patch set up to the correct height with the magnets. That worked very well. And now it's a case of go around it and weld it in and just level the heights as we go and get some weld all the way around it, give it a clean. And there it is, another patch in. It's not fantastically pretty, but it's perfectly serviceable. The last small repair involved a cluster of small holes that had been drilled for rivets, I presume. I don't know what was riveted there. But it was, you can't get on the back of it. I couldn't just back it with a bit of copper and weld it up. There was no way, I could have made it bigger and put a patch in. But what I did in the end was I got a small patch that I stuck to the end of a piece of TIG wire. And I struggled it in through the back and pulled it tight, and then bent the wire to hold it hard against the back of the panel, and then stitched that. It's not the most beautiful fix, but you'll never see it. It's perfectly strong, and that was the last one of the group that I did to get this thing ready to go. Here's another thing when I remember. Twitter, or X, or whatever. It's, yeah, we've got a Twitter thing, and we post daily stuff on there, quite often anyway. And you can also message and keep in touch and offer suggestions or whatever else. So that might be worth a looking at. Just thought of that. So that's the nuts and bolts done. And the finished part is now set up back up on the car. Not fixed, but put on for a look. And I'm now going to show you the stuff that I thought, really? And I think you'll be surprised, because I know I was. I'll show you how all of that goes, and then you can let me know what you think in the comments. Right, that's the pillar in position. It's not fixed to anything, it's just balanced. And I said I would show you some stuff that made me think you're having a laugh, aren't you? And here's a good example. Right, that was attached to the sill in this position with 5/8 of an inch diameter rivets. And they're not even in a straight line. I mean, not that that would have saved the day. And I'm not going to get into rivets and how they work and how they should be applied, but we put 17,500 new rivets into Bluebird, and they were every type, every size, every configuration in all sorts of awkward places. Everything from snap rivets, countersunk and domed heads, to mono bolts, to cherry max, to you name it. And I'm telling you now that 5 rivets on there is not going to hold that together. And indeed it didn't. And you've got probably 6 down here, the bottom's been replaced. But I would say there was probably 6 rivets there. And that's all that attached the A post to the sill at that position. There's an attachment angle inside. For some reason, down there into the floor, there's a decent pitch of rivets. Why that should be when all the rest isn't, I don't know. But at least it gets worse, because up here, the A pillar is tied into this honeycomb aluminium panel. That panel goes all the way across. It's not very good. But it ties in there, and then it doesn't tie in again till you get to there. And that's an M8 bolt through an insert. And there's no evidence on this of any glue, so I don't even know if it was bonded. So what's happened is all the holes are being pulled funny shapes. That one, I don't know if that's meant to be oval, but it certainly is now, and if it was, well, that means it could potentially move. So you've basically got 2 fixings at the top. You've got a handful of pointless rivets there that aren't doing any work. You've got a few more inside. That's just as bad. In fairness, it is fully welded along the bottom where it meets the floor, but it's not attached to anything up here. And really? So I'm going to have a look at that. I'm going to come up with some repair schemes, and I'll do a future video suggesting what they might be, and you can all have your say on how you think it should be done. But it's not being done like that. Well, there you go, everybody. Thank you for watching. Once again, if you're watching this, it's because you got all the way to the end and you haven't clicked off somewhere else, which is very good. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget the likey, subscribey thing, and I will crack on with the next video. I've actually got 2 more that are somewhere close, so I'll get them uploaded in the next week or 2, and hopefully see you on the next one. Thank you.